So in this video, I'm going to show you some warming movements for your legs, from your feet to your hips, those joints. And I'm going to show you ones that come from a branch of Thai yoga called Reusi Dat Ton. That means yogi self-stretching. I'm Katie from StudioKDB.com, and my YouTube channel is Studio KDB. Go ahead and give this channel a quick subscribe and maybe like this video. So those things, you can get some quicker access to when I release some more content. So I'm going to be teaching you this because of personal experience with how it's helped me. I've been living with inflammation for many years. At first, I thought it was mostly from having autoimmune disease, which I do with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And in my experience, I would exercise. Sometimes I would be running or walking or on an elliptical, bike riding, something like that. And after a certain amount of days or weeks, I didn't realize till later, but I would start getting very tired, and it would actually be exercise burnout and recovery time for myself, so that then eventually I wanted to get back to activity would go on for weeks or months at a time. Very, very challenging if you're trying to get healthy and be in shape. And while I had first gotten this diagnosis and thinking that focusing on that was the most important way for me to get more information about how to help myself, I tried to find tools that used that diagnosis for as my guide. So tools for nutrition and ideas for being active, even just getting some mobility going again on those times when I wasn't feeling like I could be active. And for me, the inflammation felt like a lot of soreness, a lot of achiness, and just kind of all over my body. Um, Not necessarily just like in my legs or my arms if I had used, those in a workout the day before. It was different than that. And overall, very tired. So no matter how much sleep I got, those are the big challenges. When I found Reusi Dat Ton, this kind of Thai yoga, and self-stretching, it was one of the tools that I found out would help me feel better almost immediately. When I felt relief from tightness and aches in the joints that I'm going to, all the joint activity that I'm going to show you here, when I did that the first time, I felt so much better really fast. Like, it was noticeable, and I wasn't used to that with a lot of activities I was doing. That pretty much immediately motivated me to do more and to move a little bit more. I also noticed I didn't need recovery time from the movements that I do in this routine. I started feeling curious about what else to do to increase my mobility. And so what we're going to be doing in this sequence is introducing some movement into the joints from toes, ankles, knees, and hips. And you'll be using, those parts of your body in most or many yoga sequences that you would resume, or that you would start right after you do this kind of a joint warming. You call it a warm up. Sometimes I do it as a cool down. Sometimes I do it when I get out of bed in the morning. It just helps kind of get my blood flowing, and helps me feel a little bit lighter in the morning. They're also a really sweet and gentle way to remind your body to release energy that might be stuck, to release stiffness or achiness, not just from the joints, but from the tissues that are around those joints. So in general, it'll be releasing things just, from your hips down, and that will talk to your low back and work systemically from there. This routine is for everyone. You don't have to have inflammation, be living with inflammation at all. But if you are, it will help you a little bit, even if you're not immediately feeling it, because you could be having a lot of inflammation. And the way I was feeling when I was discovering this, there wasn't a whole lot that would change how I felt. There was a lot of like toxic stress and stuff that was in my body. Um, but it'll help you even if you're not quite feeling it, and it's very gentle. One of the first thing that I do is to set an intention. And that's really important, because you're really setting up your own mental picture of what you're putting into this and what you're expecting to get out of it. And it's really for yourself and your heart and your mind. So I start out with 3 deep breaths. So I'm just going to count them off here. And I take those breaths so that my nervousness of doing this, in general, when I'm starting this, and recording videos for it, I will tend to feel some anxiety or a lot of anxiety. And the breathing helps me to remind myself, like, oh, come back into my body, feel how I'm feeling right now. It's also a good moment to check in, like, how are my feet feeling? How are my heels or my ankles? How are my knees? How are my hips? Because at the end, when we take some deep breaths, it could be a chance to just check, has there been any change? Might not be, and there might be. But checking in at the beginning is a great kind of baseline information, um, piece of information to get. How do you feel physically in your body after those 3 deep breaths? And then from there, I love how we have permission to follow our notes. And then I'm like, notes were great until I decided just to rewrite it in this last second mentally. So not going to say that part. Um, Okay, the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move over. My cat's been warming up the background in here for me. I'm gonna move over to the mat, and you'll see I've got a chair back there. This can be done on a chair or on a mat. I'm gonna record, this recording is gonna be focused on chair. And then I'll do another recording later that shows how you can do it on the floor. Chair is easier in general because for me, then I can just focus on getting my joints. You don't have to be moving around as much to like lift up your knees off the floor and stuff when you're on the mat. And we'll see if having this angle, usually I start with my right side, so I'll do that. Um, and overall, with Reusi Dat Ton, a goal would be to repeat each rotation or each movement 21 times. That's kind of a therapeutic amount of number, therapeutic amount of repetitions. I'm going to show you 3 so that for purposes of intro, it's a little bit quicker to do. And the first thing is that I make sure, I'm going to take one more deep breath just to make sure I'm grounded in the chair. And then what I do is I just start with one foot where I'm bending, or I'm extending my leg, extending my knee a bit. And I'm going to start out with crunching my toes and then flexing or extending and then flexing again, extending again. And it can be done doing this. This is kind of more ankle work, obviously. You can do it if you do it just to keep your toes in isolation. That's another way to do it. So that was 3. Then there's a flex and extend of the ankle, 2, 3, and then there's a rotation. So I'm going to go clockwise first. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then pause. And then to get balance, go counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3. I notice I'm not breathing. I'm going to lay back down for a moment. So that's the right ankle. So now I'm going to lift up a little bit on my leg, and this time instead of just straightening and having my leg resting on the chair, I could do that. I could do that as long as when I get down to the floor, I'm going right back up. So that's number 2 and number 3. You could also lift up your hip a little bit if you're able to. That's harder to do. I can feel it in my hip flexors. They're getting a little sore that way, so I don't want to do that. But I did the 3, and that's just straightening the leg and back 3 times. And then the hip is taking your leg and taking that ankle, resting it on the opposite knee. And something I found when I've done this is my hips are very tight, but I can still get a benefit from still get a benefit from the intention. So I put my hand on my kneecap, kind of wrap my fingers around my knee, and I'm going to use my other hand to stabilize my ankle. It can go underneath, it can go around the top, because the idea is as I'm moving, I kind of pull up and I'm doing a circle that's a clockwise circle, thinking that this is for my hip. And it looks like I'm just going back and forth with my knee, but I'm visualizing that I'm taking my hip around in a circle this way. And I've found that when I do this, it does help me feel lightness and release a little bit in my hips. So I'm going to do 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. And then I got to reverse it. Here we go. Counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3. And then I just gently lift up my leg and put my foot back on the floor. Take a breath. I'm already noticing right side of my body, just a little shift. And the fact that I remembered to breathe in that moment, that tells me my body is letting some stuff go. Okay, we'll do the same thing with my left foot. So here we've got left foot out, and I'm going to isolate those toes as best as I can. 2, 3. Okay, then I'm going to flex and extend and then flex, sorry. And do 3 of those for just forward, backward of the ankle. Now I'm going to rotate clockwise first. 1, 2, 3. And counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3. Put back down, take a little moment. And a breath. Okay, then I'm going to extend and flex my knee 3 times. That was 1, 2, 3. And then the last thing is that ankle over the opposite knee. I got my hand wrapping around my ankle just to stabilize a little bit. And then my left hand wrapped around my left knee and thinking of a hip rotation that goes clockwise first. So it's going to go this way first. I'm just imagining, because there's not a lot of mobility in my hips. That's 3. I go kind of fast, so I'll do 1 more. 3. And nice deep breath. And then I'm going to go back the other direction, counterclockwise. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'm just gently putting my feet back on the floor, body back, body back where it was to start with. And then I am going to mention that, could have mentioned it at the beginning of this, which I'll do next time I do this. But you can pause this video if you want to do more than 3 repetitions. Pause the video, do the repetitions. And if you're feeling at any point like you are not feeling it, but you're curious, you want to see where this goes, see what else I talk about, then feel free to rest. And you can be resting on the chair, resting in whatever is your most comfortable resting pose. Maybe you're laying on the mat. Maybe you're going back to a desk and sitting down and watching the rest of the video, just to see how things finish. And then from there, I would invite you, and I would love it if see, she's very happy back there. Now that I've been there, she wants to be there. If you got a cat, you know what that's all about. Go ahead and leave a comment. I would love it to hear what kind of feedback you have, if you've done this before, or if you're noticing, what kind of things that you noticed from doing it. Any kind of feedback at all, I would love for you to leave a comment. Um, and this is that moment where if you are not sure if you've noticed anything, take a deep breath here. And remember, before we started, we took a deep breath and we checked in with our feet and our ankles and our knees and our hips. And overall, right now, I'm feeling more relaxed. I'm feeling a little quieter and calmer mentally, which is great. Not as much anxiety about recording this. Um, and not necessarily a lot of changes. I do feel a little bit like there's a little bit more space in the joints that I was focused on. Okay, and then from there, you started out at the beginning with those deep breaths and checking in and grounding yourself, checking in with your body, setting intentions about what you wanted to do for your body. And then you did a practice that started with your toes and then your ankles, and then your knees and your hips to increase the mobility in those joints. And this can be used to prepare yourself for the day, prepare yourself for your night's sleep. Um, it can be done as something that is right before more of a mobility practice like yoga or bicycling or walking, any kind of movement in your that your body does during the day. Um, and you also learned or were reminded, if you know about this already, that this is a really great way of being able to release some stuck energies or get some soreness or achiness out of the tissues around these joints. And then you took another deep breath at the end, and we checked in on how you're feeling in your body to see if there are any changes or what kind of shifts might have happened with this practice. Thank you for being here. I really am so glad that you spent this time with me. And I wanted to remind you to go ahead and subscribe and then click the link below this video and head over to studiokdb.com and join my mailing list because I'm going to be having a lot more content that I upload. And on my website, there's going to be some more practices as well. Thank you.